Thank you, Rob, to that introduction. But just to lead on slightly as well is I'm a great believer in this new world that we're coming into that Mario has described this evening. But what I'm going to do for this talk is talk about, as it says here, project management office, but bring it into a risk-based discussion. And please do interrupt me at any time if you want to ask a question as we go along on this. Yeah. But as Rob was saying, my name is Michael Rudenko. My background is portfolio program management. I've delivered a lot of big programs, done it in we'll call it the Prince 2, managing successful programs, methodologies, and it is a methodology. Got to know Rob, got to know Mario over the last few years with this Agile DevOps way of doing things. I'm a certified Scrum Master, Agile coach, and I'm now marrying these up into a way that is going to hopefully help people deliver things faster, but more importantly, in a risk-free or as lower risk as possible. So I'm going to go through some history. Some of it's some of the programs that I've done, but I'm just going to set the scene from a risk point of view of what the government is saying today. And as you can see here, the government is basically asking those that are delivering projects to monitor risk, to apply some risk methodologies in such a way that's easy to digest. But also, government is coming away from the big programs that are led by the normal blue chips, your Accentures, your Deloittes, your IBMs, and they're asking more boutique companies to come to the forefront, especially with Brexit happening, because they've got to work at pace in an agile manner. Yeah, a lot of projects in the past, as you know, have failed, and there's all these statistics about 75% of projects fail because of this, and this. Predominantly, it's around either the people, skill deficient, and or they've not identified the risks properly, right? So I'm going to bring into here some techniques that you can identify risks, but more importantly, communicate them in such a way that the executives at management level, they start listening to you. Because everybody's done risk registers, haven't we? We've all been asked to identify risks, yeah. And it's all around the program management office. So I'm doing some research like Mario's doing research, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a slide here about net performance scores. If I asked you to think about your program management office or your senior management team that you have to report to from a delivery point of view, and do they communicate back with you? Do they do 360-degree reporting back? Where would you put them on this scale here? Your project managers, do they help you to deliver what you need to deliver? Yeah. So I'd just like a show of hands. Where would you put your program management office? Would you say it provides a service, it helps you? And I can see with some of the faces there, you would possibly be down this end of the woods. Is that true? Or would you be about neutral? Yeah. At the end of the day, we're all here to deliver in this environment that we're doing, but your PMOs have got a bit of a bad rep because they're supposed to be the gatekeepers, the guardians of information, the guardians of risk, the people that are supposed to identify things and come to you as managers and delivery experts and say, this is what's happening. But they don't invariably. They're the police people, aren't they? They want the report on a Friday. They want this off you, they want that off you, but they never give back to you. Well, my team actually does give back to you, and that's what we're going to display in a little moment. So I'll just move forward. Complex programs. Mario touched about complexities, and I'm just going to move through these. It's actually about people. Identifying risk, working on programs. You're working on because you've got the skills anyway. You've been hired because you've got the skills. A lot of management this day and age, they always want to find the blamant. Something's happened. They didn't identify the risk. They didn't identify the issue. So it's a way of covering themselves and the P45s, right? But it's not. You've got to think about the morale of the program. And I'm going through these for a reason, because when you're identifying risk, people don't want to elevate a risk because they don't feel safe. They feel that if they put their hand up their job could be at risk. So you've got to think about the heritage, the DNA of the company, and start thinking, how can I change that? How can I create a safe environment? And the way that you do it is you make the day job exciting. People should be coming to work because they want to be there, not because they go, I've got the mortgage to pay, I've got this to do, and I've got that to do. You want to be there, not the money's not the driver. The role is the driver, yeah. Loyalty, that's an interesting one. When you're doing risk, especially when you're reporting risks, people do that because they're loyal to you. They go, I found this. A risk is not a wish list of going, oh, if I tell them all about this, it's my dependencies and observations and I can get away with it. They've got to have some sort of loyalty, some affinity back to you to say, if I identify that, it means you're looking after me. You're watching my back, yeah? So I always say to people, from that, it leads to respect. Respect is earned, it's never demanded. So when you're identifying risks and you're doing your risk sessions and you're talking about risk identification, and we'll come on to this in a bit, yeah, it's about respecting people to put the hand up to say, I've identified this risk, or I've identified this issue. Transparency says it all. Be transparent about it all. DNA. You need a DNA that promotes. Now, Mario talked about security and InfoSec and he led on to these. So you need an organisation that promotes the safety, the ability to bubble up those risks in a way that you identify security issues, you identify health and safety risks, you identify people risks, single point of failures. People nowadays have got a lot of skills and they're asked to do a lot, and if they're under stress and they don't feel that you're being loyal and the morale's terrible, there is a risk that they will leave the business. So give them empowerment, let them do the jobs. Today's society, in my view, in program management, is more around output, not being at your desk at 7 o'clock in the morning and finishing at 7 o'clock at night. Yeah. So that's my view in that respect, because when I move on to this bit, what we're going to do is feature on risk management and issue management over the next few slides. The reason why I'm showing you this slide the way I'm showing you is big programs are complex. You have your solution architects, you have your security architects who do the designs and everything, but you have an organisation that has to do all of this effectively. Now, Agile ways of working is compressing all of this in a way that you can respond quickly and safely, iteratively, and deliver quickly. This is more around your £100 million programs, you know, the HSP2. Yeah? So for that, you'd have to be identifying your risks and your issue management. But it's predominantly done by the Program Management Office. Now, the people that are running this, and this is why I've titled it The Servant Leader, they should be providing a service to you. That's what that team should be doing, not dragging it off you as they do invariably. They should be there to provide for you, and I'm going to come on to that over the next coming slides. But whilst you've got a complex program that's taking place, you also have the interactions with third parties, and there's risks that then demonstrates itself insofar that if your third parties are not engaged with you as a partner, and let's be clear now, these blended commercial terms of you're a third party, you're a supplier to me, well, we're all customers of each other's, aren't we, right? If I'm a supplier into a big organisation and I fail, they're going to fail as well, aren't they? So why beat them up, and why not have an open and joint discussions around the risks of the programs? Why not talk to each other to understand what those risks are? So you tear down those risk walls. You work collaboratively. Yeah? Stop passing the buck by saying, I'm going to give Accenture this risk because I don't believe they've got the skills to deliver in a DevOps way. Right? It's on the risk register now. I'm the project manager. I'm in the clear. I've raised it. Yeah? Why don't you work collaboratively with that organisation and say, guys, I don't think we're working together. Yeah? So that's one way of looking at it. Now I'm going to come on to a demonstration about risk and how the government and how industry has termed it now. I don't know if a lot of you know, but essentially last year, the NHS, who is a fantastic organisation that I've worked around all my life, yeah, in one shape or form, they take risks every day. What with? Our lives, don't they? Clinical risk. I've looked at clinical risk all my career, and I'm going to come on to that. But if I now show you from a technology point of view how risk adverse the NHS has been, this picture that's coming up should demonstrate it, which is, here's when it started, the NHS using paper, and look, we're still effectively using paper in 2007 when I was on NP Fit Spine. And I can guarantee you, you can go into some hospitals and they're still on paper, or organisations, because from a risk point of view, what do we like to do now? Because the Americans have been doing it for years. Sue each other, don't we? Because you didn't take the clinical risk in a shape or form. So technology is supposed to be an enabler and an actor to help us to come away from risk exposure. And I'm going to go through that over the next few slides. Any questions around this at the moment? No? Right. So I'm going to turn things on its head a little bit. Agile. Everybody's heard about Agile now. DevOps, SecOps. They're great terms, aren't they? But at the end of the day, they're terms, because ultimately we're going to deliver something. Now, the Agile Manifesto is all around, you know, it's cost, time, quality, scope, put it on plan. But yet, the value and the driven and the scope, yeah, are turned on its head, because it's done differently. You have to work differently. You have to work with people, and that brings its own risk in itself. Because when you look at the profile of the people that work in this industry, you have testers. Invariably, they are introverts, because they are sitting on the box, testing the stuff. They don't like to explain things in an open manner, so you have to address that. People like myself, who's been program managers, program director, I'm more of an extrovert. I'll communicate too much sometimes. I'll talk till the cows come home. However, people that are doing my roles need to understand how those dynamics work from a risk profile point of view, and how to work together and bring those teams together. Mario talked about leadership and the fact that you have, you know, it's all about the military side of it, and the way that's security and risk. There's a difference between leadership, and there's a different style between management. Leadership is, I don't really need to be here, because my guys can just get on with it, because I've earned their respect and they know I will support them. So I'm de-risking the delivery. Does that sound sensible for you? Yeah. So to that, this is one that I've talked about, but I won't go into it too much, because I'll be conscious of the time as well, right? But if I'm going in to talk to a new organisation, the biggest term I always use is this: one version of the truth. You want to go to something or an organisation, the PMO, that will provide you all the risks, the risk registers, the issue registers. They'll profile it against financials, against security, all of that, GDPR, right? So this is what the new PMO, the servant leader PMO, should be doing for you. Stop me at any point, ladies and gentlemen, if you want me to go deeper into the slide, and I will do, yeah. But I'm just conscious of the time, but these will be on the internet. So, Agile risk gap analysis. You've got to have a good risk appetite, depending on the risk appetite, and then over time you'll look at potential risks, diversification, yeah, and marry that against the product development, because as you identify all this, you will bring all that risk down. You know, in an Agile world, it's all about, right, how many sprints have we got? How long is the sprint? Is it 2 weeks? Is it 4 weeks? You want to reduce the risk of the iteration of the, it's that term again, minimum viable product. Let's do that acronyms and get in there, MVPs. Yeah. Another way of identifying risk, just go into it, is the old fishbone. You've all seen these, yeah. I'll just quickly go through this, but as you can see, there's ways of identifying risk. But the reason why I'm demonstrating this one is because it's about bringing people together to enable them to explain where they feel there's problems. And then what should happen is, when you have your risk workshops, the risk manager or the PMO team should take this away, profile it, and come to you and then mitigate those risks with you and how you would mitigate it. I did this on an American company a few weeks ago. That's the reason why it's in dollars. So my apologies for the internationalization of it. Anyway, let's turn it on its head. The Agile PMO that's dealing with risk, should turn it completely on its head, but the most key thing here, it provides a risk service to you, every one of you, not you the opposite way, An Agile PMO will provide a service, it will be visible, and look, it will want to help. Now, you're starting to see how I am stood here talking about this subject. I profess, in my way, that that's what a team should always do, provide that service. Because at the end of the day, you're paying for it. So, I'm going to play a little video. It only takes 2 minutes to play this, but it brings to light, and it gives you a lens, excuse the pun for when you see it, about trust.
One time I hired a guide to take me fly fishing. While we were fishing, he asked me, "What do you see?" "I see a beautiful river." "Do you see any fish?" "No." Then he told me to put on a pair of polarized sunglasses. Suddenly, everything looked dramatically different. I could see through the water, and I could see fish, a lot of fish. Suddenly, I saw enormous possibilities that I had not seen before. The fish were there all along, but until I put on the glasses, they were hidden.
A video of two gentlemen on a stream, a river, fly fishing. The sun's on the water, they can't see the fish, and he gives them some polarized glasses. And he says, it's about trust. You're just fishing because you trust me that I'm telling you that there's fish out there. As soon as you put the glasses on and you mitigate the risk of actually going blind with the water, you can see the actual fish and then catch more fish. That's what it was on about. Right, so let's just go into this a little bit more. So, Agile PMO, guardians of the information, guardians of the risk, They should hold a central library of information and give you where the documents are and mitigate anything that's around there, On that, what they should also be doing then is giving you the access to it in an easy access. They should ensure that the communications are there, that the focus of the risks are clear, and that they're communicating one version of the truth with regards to risks. I'll come on to how you do risks in a second, and I'll show you that, but I just want to show you what a PMO of an Agile PMO should be doing for you. That's why I'm demonstrating this, They should update you regularly, right? They should provide the information that you give back to you. Why report stuff only going one way? If you're a developer or you're doing development work and you're doing testing, you're doing your reports on how many tests you've done, what's the test cycles, where you are on your sprints if you're doing Agile, where are you on with regards to what the backlog is. And that's all being reported this way, but that Agile PMO should actually be coming back to you and saying, see this team here, this development team, they're this far on their sprint, these guys are this far on this sprint, and so that you know what's happening. Because sometimes you can also cross-paralyze yourself and release things, and oh dear, somebody else was about to release something and it just clashes. So the risk is, and the mitigation is, talk to each other across your teams. So the PMO, guardian of the risk taxonomy. You all know what a taxonomy is effectively. It's showing you exactly how risk should be profiled. If you don't do a risk taxonomy, i.e. the hierarchy of the risks, you'll find that you are bubbling up just noise. You should understand how those risks permeate up further and further the chain of command. Just as a side question, do a lot of you do risk workshops, or do you actually do a lot of the risk mitigation stuff? No, not really. Right, well, what I'll do then is I'll come on to some more of the interesting bits then. What you do though, from a risk point of view is, and the plans, the guys should be coming to you, giving you the release details, giving you the requirements, what's happening requirements-wise, and profiling that against risk. They should be telling you what's happening with the features. Hands up who uses Jira and Confluence and things like that. You do, in some shape or form, So we found a way that you can actually bring into Jira, risk for Jira, that links to the epics, the features, the stories, and it does all your risks for you. It's a plugin that you can download from the Atlassian market. Once it's in there and you use it properly, you can attach it to each of the epics that you're doing or user stories. But more importantly, you'll be able to do a dashboard that then the grown-ups, i.e. the SMTs and other people, can see what's happening. Yeah? I'll just skip through this then because I'm conscious of that. Right. Nice little dial box. But it's all about the risk. Yeah. Your risk profile should be about each of these subjects. Finance. Mario talked about the business. And under GDPR, I keep forgetting Mario, correct me. Is it 2% of global revenue or 4% of global revenue that if you get... It's 4, yeah. There's more, yeah. So you've got to profile that risk from a security point of view because otherwise, do you know what? Any of us could put code in there. There's a data leak, security leak. That's it. Business is finished. You've lost your job effectively, haven't you? Unless somebody's put the hand up and has been able to put the hand up because they're working in a safe environment and they're able to articulate and think there is a risk that if we don't do this, yeah, you need to give people that space that will do it. You know, the IT, legal. A lot of people forget about the risks around legal. There's lots of legislation this day and age now, isn't there? And there's going to be changes coming down the road if it happens on December the 12th. Procurement and HR. Now then, I'm going to show you this one. This is how I do risk and demonstrate risk. There are lots of tools out there that you can use. Predominantly the spreadsheets, and it'll be 5x5s, and there'll be lots of science behind it. But what do we want to know? We want to not make it not be boring. We just want to get to the detail. So when I'm talking to people like you, I'll say, guys, we've got an integration architecture risk. I think actually we need to manage it. Yeah, we've got a deliverable status, i.e. the documents that are being produced, they're not very good, or more importantly, the people in the business can't read them, they don't know what is supposed to go on. Yeah, code stability, requirements traceability, those are key. You all understand those words, you eat and breathe them every day. But if I'm giving you it like this as a risk profile, easy to understand, isn't it? Now we've identified that, so what about a month later, we then do it, and we can now say, architecture has actually got worse. Yeah, deliverable status, where are we there? It's got a little bit better. It's easy to communicate, isn't it? It's better. It's better than filling in loads of spreadsheets and everything. Yeah. Or another way of doing it is doing it on a traffic light basis. Again, it's visual. It's to the point. It's not filled with lots and lots of words. You can gain from it a lot of information and make a decision quite quickly, can't you? What I would say to you is that a lot of senior people this day and age are time poor. You may think that they're earning a lot of money and going playing golf quite often, right? But they're on the golf course and they're actually doing business as well, to be brutally honest, and I have seen that. But they are time poor. So if you can communicate simply and quickly, it helps and it mitigates the risk of communications. Because from an Agile point of view, you could have a risk burn down chart. You've all seen burn down charts. How is the risk getting better? That's an ideal way of communicating it. Better than a 200-line spreadsheet with lots of little rows and telling you what it is. Yeah. This one here is risk identification landscape, where you would go from left to right and you would look at it across the development lifecycle. Everybody understands, I believe, the term SDLC, Software Development Lifecycle. Yeah, you should identify your risks against that from start all the way into service and mitigate those accordingly. Back into one of the health ones that I did, yeah, I was telling people, risk, all right, you've got people, tools and processes. People always say those sort of things, but actually that's key about risk. Risk appetite, especially when you're in the NHS, what's the most important thing? We want you to live, don't we? We want you to be treated correctly. So from a clinical point of view, you look at the risk profile of people and you go, okay, then what can we do to ensure that they survive or they get better quickly? Yeah. And from that, you then do it from a clinical point of view. I'm not going to go into the depths because I don't want to bore you with the subject. Right. I'm going to do some quick slides, and then I think we'll finish just at the end of that. But government now talks about AL at arm's length body organisations. It's saying to organisations like, we'll say Broadlight, small organisation insofar that it's a boutique, very niche, very quick to work out there in the community. So it will say, right, I trust you. And that's my first slide, what I was saying about DNA, heritage, respect and legacy. We trust you, you've got the skills, we'd like you to communicate to us quickly if there's a problem. Don't be afraid. That's how the commercial world is changing now from a risk point of view. They're saying, don't be afraid to communicate, because what they've learned, and you know that you can go to the university here and do an MSc or that in portfolio program management, yeah? And what they're lecturing now is communicate, communicate, communicate. Yeah? Projects fail because people are not putting their hands up early enough. Let's have a look. Yeah, major challenges, so defining it and the responsibilities of it. You've got to look at different cultures. Yeah? Today, the biggest problem with portfolio program management is we're a global community now. So the risk is you've got those cultures, different ways of working that actually could impact a program. If you have somebody from Portugal, yeah, different social cultural background than people from, say, Germany. Germany will be, we will do it now. Japan, they will be respectful. They'll take more time to deliver something or talk something through. So the risk is that it could impact your program. The mitigation is understand social culture, who you're dealing with, and especially when you're doing the follow the sun type of delivery, understand how that works interactively. Does that sound right for you? Yeah? I was just talking earlier about the arm's length approach, the potential downsides of it. Get rid of this unhelpful behaviour. We all hate it. It's like a plague, isn't it? When people just drag you down, and all you want to do is just get through the subject, understand where you are, and then get on to something else. That's again social cultural. It's about working with them and get them to understand that you're there for a reason, to understand what your risk profile is. It's a boring subject, I know. People don't like do it, but predominantly they do it to throw something over and go, I've got this dependency, it's a risk. If you do not give me these licenses or these executables by this date, do you know what? I'm free, I'm all right, I'm on time and materials. I'll just carry on. No, work with them and say, look guys, I haven't got this yet. The mitigation of the risk, do your job, help me. And then when it doesn't happen, have the ability to say, look, we sat down, we talked about it, let's be big boys and girls and let's mitigate what we can. And I always say to people, when risks are triggered, is this: it's happened. We're not Time Lords. We cannot turn the clock back. So don't bring me a problem, bring me a solution. Let's look for the solution and let's work together and mitigate those risks. Sounds sensible, doesn't it? But it can be hard because you're dealing with people. Today, I really believe strongly that the success of programs when you're mitigating risk or doing and delivering programs is to work in a joint manner. Now, commercially, 20 years ago, that would be unheard of, right? Because it'd be, oh my God, don't tell them about our rate cards, how we're delivering what we've done wrong, yeah? I fail, you fail, is what I'm trying to say. Mitigate the risks. I've worked in a joint environment and it was hard because commercially, people were told, do not bubble up these risks to your joint partner. But again, that's why they fail, if you don't do it. Clarity of objectives. So just bring in quickly. So everybody's heard of the Office of Government Commerce, yeah, OGC, Lloyd's Registers, they do a lot of risk profiling. But basically the OGC is saying, look, come together and work together, right? Partner. Keywords. Hold a joint risk register. A shared risk register ensures complete understanding. Work together, yeah, in openness. But you can't do that if you do not trust each other. So put it a different way. Those that have relationships, if you do not trust your partner, the relationship will not work. Yeah? Same with risks. If you don't identify them correctly and work together, it'll just happen. So, I'm going to skip through a couple of slides for us because I want to get to the Department of Health one. That was it, yeah. Has undertaken a major review at arm's length bodies, yeah, and how it works. So I want to finish by telling you how much I actually love the NHS and people that work to help people, yeah. And what they're doing is they're working closely and closely with more organisations because money's tight, skill sets are very tight because people are emigrating or they're travelling, for want of a word. So you've got to find new ways forward through this. And you can only do it by identifying the risks and how those risks work. So the one I want to get to is this, risk stratification that they do. So you know when you go into a hospital, this is how they'll profile you in the hospital. And I was in hospital a few years ago, had my appendix out. I'm quite old, shall we say, yeah. They risk stratification me and they said, do you know what? Anybody that comes through at the moment, even though we need to operate quickly on you, if they're younger, like a young boy of 7 or 8, who do you think they'll operate on first? It was a young person. They'll evaluate me as a risk, so they triage you, yeah. And I understood that, and it was a bank holiday, and it burst, and they needed to get me in there, so they saved my life just at the last minute. But there was other people that got in there before me. Yeah, because ultimately, I've had my life, I've had my career. You've got to be a big person to understand that. But somebody that's young, that's been in a car crash, they've got their life ahead of you. Understand the risk and the risk mitigations around it. So just quickly, I'll go taxonomy, clinical safety, look at it from a strategic, and this is how you would break your risks into different sections from a business point of view. Yeah? I won't go into anything. No, in fact, I'll just quickly do this. Just to give you some metrics, because everybody likes metrics in a presentation, don't they, to look at, right? So I've done a lot of military projects, because I'm ex-military. I've done a lot of web projects and system integration projects. This is a calibrated table of what you would need from a percentage point of view in these roles for the success of the program. And as you can see in risk here, it's higher than what you think, yeah? Now, the bean counters, the finance people are going, oh, can't pay for all of that and everything else. But for it to work properly, these are the calibrated percentages. And this goes back to World War II all the way through. They're all calibrated. And then from an agile point of view, and Mario, I hope you're proud of me, chaos side of it, yeah? This is how you would look at risk as well and profile risk. Again, you can look at it later on, yeah, on the files. So I'll finish with my last slide, which is if your PMO was doing this and providing a service to you, on a net performance score, do you think it'd be a lot higher than being down here? It's true, isn't it? But you can only do that by evangelizing what we're trying to do. Yeah, that's why I'm here tonight, is to put out there, get your program management offices or your people that work in an agile way, the scrum masters, the product owners, yeah, work together for the benefit of everybody else. So I shall finish at that point and say that don't make it boring. It's not a boring subject, yeah, and work with people in management to make it less boring, yeah? Okay? Thank you very much.